I'm James Parr, the chief of the Pine Ridge Fire Department. When the creek fire hit, the Pine Ridge community had to evacuate. They were moving everybody out. Most of the firefighters had to leave with their families because they had people they had to take care of, people who relied on them during the evacuation.
When the creek fire started, I remember it was a Friday night. My wife was coming up to the house, and she said that there was a fire that had started over by the Big Creek area, and which was concerning, but it wasn't super concerning because it was quite a ways away.
At 6 o'clock on Sunday morning, when we got the news that we needed to evacuate, we set up a phone tree. We called everyone to make sure they knew we needed to evacuate.
We were initially notified a day and a half before. I was at home because I was president of the Property Owners Association and the Highway 168 Fire Safe Council both. Part of my job was to call people along with our training officer, Janet Parr, and Ari Arroyo, who was our secretary-treasurer of the Property Owners Association. We called everybody to make sure we let them know when there was an evacuation warning, we let them know when there was an evacuation order. We got everyone out of there. We lost nobody. We lost homes, etc., but we didn't lose any. We didn't lose any people. We got them all out.
The next day they called for pre-evacuation orders, and so I got the family out of there. My 5 kids and my wife, we evacuated them, and I stayed back to help out with all the preparations that in case the fire came down into our neighborhood. I wanted to make sure all of our engines were ready and water pumps, and that everybody was going to be able to evacuate.
Later that day, we then had the same individuals who volunteered from the fire department drive to everybody's home and make sure that everybody had left safely and put up signs indicating that the individuals were gone. So when the sheriff came by to double check, they knew if there were any occupants left. I evacuated Sunday night about 10 o'clock, and the fire came through our community on Monday evening.
The creek fire hit Cressman Store, our local landmark, jumped the highway, and came in from an unexpected direction. And it is a good thing that we weren't actually in the community at that time because it ravaged our community. 66 out of the 88 structures were lost, mostly full-time residents.
We really didn't believe that it was going to hit our community, so even when we evacuated, we took enough clothes for 2 days because we were all convinced we were coming back. So it was devastating to hear how the fire was going, and then on Tuesday to have my husband call and indicate that our home and the majority of the homes in our community were lost.
I lived on Cressman Road. My house was completely destroyed on the night of September 7th by the creek fire. It took out everything. Our neighborhood was hit so hard, everybody lost all our trees. We lost 3/4 of the houses in our neighborhood. Many of those were owned by firefighters. My wife and I, all the folks here this evening, they're all firefighters.
The biggest concern I had was get my family out of there so that I could focus on any recovery efforts that we might need to be engaged in. The idea was if the circle gets large enough and then we're evacuated, and then our volunteer team would blend in with the CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service personnel. And so that had never actually happened. What happened was the crews were attending the fires uphill from us, and it turned out that I wound up evacuating before anybody came in the neighborhood. The neighborhood was completely evacuated. Those of us on the local volunteer fire department at the time helped others that needed help, got them all out of there, and then we stayed on as long as we could. And then once the fire was imminent, we got ourselves out of there.
The numbers are hard to explain because we had firefighters from 3 different fire departments lose their homes, some from Shaver Lake, some from Pine Ridge, and a Fresno firefighter. We had 8 families or 8 homes of firefighters in Pine Ridge lost, 2 in Shaver and 1 from Fresno Fire.
It was horrific. I mean, it was a tremendous disaster when you lose that much of your community in a single event. It's just devastating. I was devastated. My wife was devastated. We were displaced. We were living in a hotel in North Fresno for like 2 weeks. But what's happened, I've seen the way in which the folks who didn't get burned out, and that was really fluky. The wind changed direction toward the back of our tract, and that's why a quarter of the houses did survive. But the folks who are still there have been very involved. We're all still working together on it. I'm seeing my neighbors rebuilding. All of that's been going on. And it's, well, I guess you could say that nothing downsizes your clutter like a fire. I mean, it's gone. But things are coming back, and I'm just so happy for our neighbors and for our neighborhood.
Dan reached out to us, and I have a link to Dan through home brewing myself. So I have some history with Riley's and some of his friends and some of the other home brewers and the microbrewers in the area. And they reached out. They wanted to raise money, but they didn't exactly know how to get it to the right people. And through some discussions, we thought that the best target would be the firefighters who lost their homes.
Volunteer fire departments have always been a big part of the brewing community. We've done a lot of work at the Shaver Beer Fest and just other beer fests up the mountains. They've always been a contributor. When we heard about the fire and we found about the losses, not only in our own community with some of the brewers who lost their houses, but for the hard work of the fire department and knowing that they had lost their houses while they were fighting fires, saving others. So again, I couldn't ask for a better type of selfless heroism. So we wanted to try to help them out.
So we got all the breweries together to make beers that we could sell and donate the proceeds to the Creek Fire Relief Fund. I reached out to our local supermarket, which is Save Marts. They agreed to put the beer in all their stores, which helped tremendously. What it did is brought the community together. It sold out everywhere, and we were able to make a huge donation to helping out the victims of the fire.
And our goal of helping out is to get behind all the other breweries. We gathered 9 other breweries with us. We put together a collaboration. Everybody donated time, people donated hops, grain, everything, tanks, and we made sure that 100% of the money went to the fire crews. And we were able to donate $22,000 to help them rebuild their lives, rebuild lost furniture, whatever they needed to just try to recover and get past and start rebuilding their own lives for the gracious act they did for us.
I didn't know what exactly was going on until we got a note and a check for a sizable chunk of money. And I thought, this is great, this is wonderful, because it was earmarked for firefighters who had lost their homes to the fire. And I was just honored that they had thought of us, that they could make such a gift. The fact that Riley's was able to organize, I think, 8 or 9 other brewers to make it happen, Fire Brigade beer, all this. I was just really honored. I was very grateful.
We've been so impressed with the generosity of everyone in the aftermath of the fire, and it was particularly impressive to us that Riley's would reach out based on the fact that my husband is a home brewer, is involved with the Warthogs Homebrew Club, and we were just so overwhelmed of the generosity of the brewers that came together to help raise money for the firefighters who lost their homes. Every little bit helps when you lose everything, and there were multiple people who didn't have any insurance, and so it was really tremendous to be able to get such a wonderful gift.
The people that have stepped up and just helped out, people in the community, people outside of the community, absolutely amazing, and we can't thank them enough.
Huge thank you. It means so much to everybody who lost so much to have people who don't even know us, don't know a thing about us, go out of their way to help individuals who have suffered loss. And it was really incredible. It actually brought myself and my husband to tears when we saw the amount of money that they were able to raise for the firefighters. So we really want to say thank you very much.
Dan and all the rest of the brewers, we really appreciate all the help that you've given us. We look forward to spending some time in your place, and thank you very much.